is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, first, U.S. President Donald Trump is escalating his push for Greenland. Trump issued a blunt warning to European leaders today, sharpening his stance on acquiring the territory. U.S. Southern Command has seized another oil tanker in the Caribbean. This marks the 7th interception in recent weeks as Washington tightens its maritime quarantine against Venezuelan exports. Tensions are soaring in southern Lebanon after intense Israeli airstrikes. The attacks targeted multiple towns Wednesday, leaving nearly 20 injured and sparking outcry over the safety of media workers. A dramatic verdict in Seoul. Ex-Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has been sentenced to 23 years in prison for plotting against the South Korean government. In the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is under medical observation. Malacanang says the move is precautionary after the president experienced physical discomfort. Political analysts comment on new legal challenges against Vice President Sara Duterte. Experts claim the latest ombudsman filings are merely repetitive of previous issues. And the fashion world mourns the loss of legend Valentino Garavani. The iconic designer, famous for his signature red dresses and haute couture, legacy has passed away. I'm Carlo de la Peña. Newsline World starts now. Tensions have escalated in southern Lebanon after intense Israeli airstrikes targeted multiple towns on Wednesday. The attacks, which Israel says targeted Hezbollah military sites, left nearly 20 people injured and sparked fresh outcry over the safety of media workers. Prince Tripoli reports.
Clouds of thick black smoke rose over the town of Kanari as Israeli warplanes carried out multiple strikes on buildings allegedly housing Hezbollah infrastructure. The strikes followed an urgent evacuation warning from the IDF, forcing dozens of families in Kanarit and surrounding towns to flee their homes on short notice. Among the 19 people injured were at least 4 journalists who were struck by shrapnel while covering the bombardment from a distance. Photographers from AFP and Al Mayadin were among those treated from wounds, with some describing the blasts as the most powerful they had ever experienced. The Lebanese Ministry of Health confirmed that 2 of the injured remain in intensive care, while over 50 families have been left homeless by the destruction. Israeli officials maintain that the operations are necessary to prevent Hezbollah from re-establishing its military presence south of the Litani River. However, the Lebanese army has condemned the attacks as a flagrant violation of the ceasefire agreement that has been in place since late 2024. As the ceasefire continues to hold by a thread, the international community is watching closely to see if this latest surge in violence will lead to a total collapse of a truce. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMNI News.
French farmers are celebrating what they call a resounding victory after the European Parliament voted to block the ratification of the EU-Mercosur trade deal. The case has now been referred to the European Court of Justice for legal review. Almar Forsuelo has the details.
The sound of cheers and honking tractors was heard amidst the chaos of tear gas outside the European Parliament in Strasbourg on Wednesday. In a stunning reversal, lawmakers voted 324 in favor of seeking a legal opinion from the Court of Justice on the controversial trade pact. The decision effectively freezes the ratification process, as judges in Luxembourg must now determine if the deal is compatible with the European Union treaties. For the thousands of farmers who blocked the city with their tractors, the vote is being hailed as the first major crack in the deal they have fought for 25 years.
avons gagné avec 334 voix contre 324. Nous avons fait plier.
While the mood in Strasbourg was festive, the protest spirit remained fierce in other parts of France. In Nantes, farmers displayed a coffin and hung dummies for tractors to symbolize what they call the death of French agriculture if the deal eventually passes. Agricultural unions warn that despite this victory, they must remain vigilant as the European Commission still holds the power to implement the deal on a provisional basis. Protesters say they will not leave the streets until the agreement is cancelled entirely to protect European food sovereignty and health standards.
Enfin, on n'a toujours pas de réponse concrète. Le Mercosur a été signé, on a l'impression qu'on se fout de nous. On est déçus par nos politiques et rien ne bouge quoi, donc c'est la même chose. On rajoute en plus des maladies là, comme il y a eu cet hiver et des maladies mal gérées et puis voilà quoi, on est au bout. Ouais, on en a marre. On veut du concret.
The legal review by the Court of Justice is expected to take several months, providing a significant delay that farmers hope will eventually lead to the deal's total collapse. Reporter for Newsline World, Almar Forsualo, SMNI News.
In a significant move toward energy transition, Japan has brought a reactor back online at its largest nuclear power plant after a 15-year shutdown triggered by the Fukushima disaster. More of this from Daniela Paulite.
Japan has restarted a nuclear reactor at its largest nuclear power plant, marking a major step in the country's energy transition nearly 15 years after the Fukushima disaster. The reactor, located at the Kashiwazaki-Kariwa nuclear power plant in Niigata Prefecture, was brought back online following extensive safety upgrades and regulatory approval. The facility had remained shut down since the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident, which triggered nationwide reactor closures and public concern over nuclear safety. Japanese authorities say the restart is part of efforts to secure stable energy supplies and reduce reliance on fossil fuels amid rising energy costs and global supply uncertainties. The Japanese government has also emphasized that stricter safety standards are now in place, including enhanced tsunami defenses and emergency response systems. Despite the restart, public opposition remains strong. Local residents and anti-nuclear groups continue to voice concerns about evacuation plans and the potential risk of another major accident. Japan currently relies heavily on imported liquefied natural gas and coal. Officials argue that reviving nuclear power is essential to achieving the country's carbon-neutral goals while ensuring energy security. The restart is being closely watched as it could pave the way for additional reactors to return to service across the country. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulite, SMNI News.
In a rare public reprimand, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un removed a vice premier from office, accusing senior officials of incompetence and mismanagement during the construction of a key machine complex. Valdivina Gracia tells us more.
The leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Kim Jong-un, has removed Cabinet Vice Premier Yang Song-ho from his post during the inauguration ceremony of the Ronsong Machine Complex. According to state-run Korean Central News Agency, Kim blamed what he described as the irresponsible, rude, and incompetent conduct of senior officials for delays and significant economic losses in the project. KCNA quoted Kim as saying that the project faced serious difficulties due to poor leadership, stressing that such failures could no longer be tolerated. Kim added that breaking away from long-standing practices of relying on officials accustomed to defeatism, irresponsibility, and passiveness marks what he called a new beginning for future development and progress. Yang Song-ho's dismissal was announced on the spot, underscoring Kim's continued push to enforce discipline and accountability among top officials as North Korea pursues its industrial and economic goals. State media did not say who would replace Yang or whether further disciplinary actions are expected. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Valdivina Gracia, SMNI News.
Up next, in the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is under medical observation. Malacanang says the move is precautionary after the president experienced physical discomfort. And political analysts comment on new legal challenges against Vice President Sara Duterte. Experts claim the latest ombudsman filings are merely repetitive of previous issues. More news when Newsline World returns.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, sa kapalalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is under medical observation as a precaution after experiencing discomfort, according to Malacanang. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the president experienced discomfort on Wednesday night. Castro did not provide details on the nature of the discomfort, saying she was not privy to the specific medical issue.
The president spent the night under medical observation as a precautionary measure after experiencing discomfort. His doctors advised rest and monitoring, and his condition remains stable. The president continued to carry out his responsibilities while under medical observation and has returned to Malacanang.
Other groups still have the opportunity to file a new impeachment case against President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. This is according to a ranking member of the House of Representatives. MJ Mondeja reports.
So in the meantime, habang hindi pa na-actionan ng Speaker or hindi pa na-include sa order of business at hindi pa na-refer to the Committee on Justice, pwede pa pong mag-file ng kahit sinong grupo ang may intention to file other impeachment complaints against the same President now.
The door is not yet closed for other groups or individuals to file an impeachment case against President Bongbong Marcos. In an interview with SMNI News, House Committee on Justice Vice Chairman Jonathan Keith Flores said that complaints to be filed against the president can still be strengthened.
Kasi sabi nga nila na itong unang complaint daw is not so well worded daw, na parang designed daw para maging bar to further impeachment complaints against the president. Pero may panahon pa naman na sa mga ibang grupo na gustong mag-file ng mas siguro, mas seryosong impeachment complaint ba, or mas well-written ba, mas backed up by more evidence ba, pwede pa mag-file para makonsider din ng Kongreso.
However, Congressman Flores clarified that there's no certainty as to which of the possible impeachment cases will be acted upon. He said that even if additional complaints are filed, it will still be the plenary of the House that will decide which one will move forward.
Ang Speaker, ang gagawin niya is kung antayin niya pa ba yung iba or hindi, then i-include niya na in the order of business. Now, kung anong una ang ma-actionan, anong unang ma-aprobahan ng plenaryo na ipapadala to the Committee on Justice, yun yung complaint na a-actionan ng Committee on Justice. At kung yun ang actionan ng Committee on Justice, yun po ang magbabar from any other complaints to be considered by the House of Representatives.
Opo. So, hindi po siya pwedeng pagsabayin. Pipili lang po ang plenaryo sa alinman kung sakaling marami pang maghahain, kung alin doon ang pauusarin sa komite, Congressman.
Yes, tama po, Admar.
Attorney Andre de Jesus filed impeachment complaint against the president over alleged graft and corruption, culpable violation of the Constitution, and betrayal of public trust. The complaint was endorsed in the House by Pusong Pinoy Party List Representative Jet Nisay. Among the grounds cited are the controversial 60 billion peso fund transfer to PhilHealth, allegations of corruption, and issues of unprogrammed items in the 2023 to 2025 national budget, as well as the allegation that the president is allegedly a drug user. Also included in the complaint is the so-called kidnapping and surrender of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the ICC and the alleged creation of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, meant to protect allies involved in corruption. However, the question raised by the public is how the House will act on the impeachment when majority of congressmen are allies of the administration, including the Speaker of the House, who earlier said that the impeachment complaint has no basis.
Importante to note also na lahat naman ng mga congressmen are political persons, di ba? So dependent din sila kung ano yung public sentiment on that day, no? So kung ang publiko po ay nakita nila yung impeachment complaint at pabor sila or against sila, then most likely the decisions of the members of Congress would also be swayed, no? Not just by the evidence presented but also by public opinion.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondeja, SMNI News.
Amid the new cases filed with the Ombudsman against Vice President Sara Duterte, a political analyst said that the issues being raised against the Vice President are nothing new and are merely repetitive. Jane Conita has more.
Recycled na naman itong issue na ito. Tapos kung titingnan natin, the same na mga bloke ng tao. Kasi hindi na siya nagiging objective man eh. Nagiging personal na siya on the part of former Senator Trillanes.
This was the view of Professor Eric De Torres regarding the filing of cases at the Ombudsman by former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV together with a civil society group against Vice President Sara Duterte this Wednesday. Despite the allegations of graft and malversation against VP Sara, she reportedly continues to post high survey ratings. According to De Torres, critics are rushing to judge the Vice President despite the fact that there is still no final court ruling.
Parang ina-assume niya na meron kaagad na anomalya sa mga bagay-bagay. Huwag masyadong publicity by media na sisingilin kasi ganito ang mga Duterte o ganito si VP Sara. Dapat magkaroon tayo ng objective na pagtingin dito at hayaang magdesisyon basically ang korte.
De Torres further believes that instead of damaging her, the repeated issues only strengthen public support for VP Sara. He added that the public is becoming more discerning as they feel that the discourse is drifting away from more important issues that truly require accountability.
Mas lalong nasusuya yung taong bayan kasi ang layo-layo eh. Ito yung flood control na ang dami-daming mapanagot tapos biglang all of a sudden, ito na naman yung VP Sara issue. So, alam mo, matatalino na yung taong bayan eh. Ang iniisip ngayon nila na ito ba, totoong may issue sa kanya?
The plunder and graft cases filed by Trillanes against Vice President Duterte before the Ombudsman are related to alleged anomalies during her tenure as former Secretary of the Department of Education and as former Mayor of Davao City. This has been Jane Conita, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has met with the central bank to review recent interest rate cuts and the outlook for the Philippine economy. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Eli Remolona Jr. briefed the president on the latest monetary policy decisions. Creselyn Catarong will give us the details.
In Malacanang, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. received a briefing from Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Eli Remolona Jr. following the Monetary Board's latest policy meeting. The central bank recently moved to ease monetary conditions, cutting key interest rates. In December, the Monetary Board reduced the policy rate to 4.5% from 4.75% in October 2025. Rates on overnight deposit facilities were also lowered to 4% from 4.25%, while overnight lending rates were cut to 5% from 5.25%. In its latest policy assessment, the BSP projected that economic growth would remain modest in the first half of 2026 before gaining momentum in 2027, partly due to the impact of earlier monetary easing. The central bank also noted that the current easing cycle is approaching its end. Meanwhile, the World Bank expects the Philippine economy to recover over the next 2 years. It projected stronger private consumption if inflation remains manageable, employment stays robust, and lower interest rates encourage higher spending and investment by businesses and households. The World Bank also anticipates improved investment levels as public infrastructure projects resume and recent economic liberalization reforms enhance the overall business climate. For long-term growth, it stressed the importance of faster expansion in low and middle-income regions outside Metro Manila. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Creselyn Catarong, SMNI News.
Philippine transport authorities are investigating 2 separate road safety incidents after issuing show-cause orders against a government employee accused of assaulting another motorist and a driver caught using illegal vehicle accessories in Pasay City. Carla Abellana has the details.
The Land Transportation Office or LTO issued a show-cause order against a government employee after a video showing the alleged assault of another motorist went viral. The LTO ordered the individual involved, along with a representative from the government agency that owns the vehicle, to appear before its Intelligence and Investigation Division on January 27. They were ordered to explain why they should not be held administratively liable for obstruction and why the government employee's driver's license should not be suspended for being an improper person to operate a motor vehicle due to his behavior. The employee's driver's license was temporarily suspended for 90 days and the vehicle used was placed under alarm status while the case is under investigation. Meanwhile, the LTO has also issued a separate show-cause order against an SUV spotted using unauthorized blinkers while exiting a club in Pasay City. The registered owner and the driver have been summoned to a hearing to answer possible violations of traffic regulations. They were ordered to submit a verified explanation on why they should not be held administratively liable for operating a motor vehicle with unauthorized accessories and for being an improper person to operate a motor vehicle. The driver's license was also suspended for 90 days and the SUV was placed under alarm status as the investigations continues. Lakinalo stressed that the use of illegal vehicle accessories poses a threat to public safety and will not be tolerated by the agency. For God and my beloved Philippines, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
The Philippine National Police revealed at Camp Crame that some police officers and other high-ranking security officials are allegedly involved in protecting smuggled cigarettes entering the country. This, according to the PNP, makes it more difficult to stop the illegal trade. Paul Montibon reports.
Yes, may high-ranking officer.
Thank you.
Tama na lang na maikot nyo ako na
High-ranking.
may members of the security forces also.
PNP Highway Patrol Group Director Police Brigadier General Hansel Marantan confirmed before media at Camp Crame that high-ranking officials from the PNP and other security forces are allegedly behind large-scale cigarette smuggling in the country. Because of this, the PNP admitted that efforts to suppress and stop the source of these illegal products have become more difficult, as some of those protecting the operations are allegedly their own colleagues.
Well, with all honesty, yes.
Authorities are also looking into the possibility that smuggled cigarettes are being used as a cover to smuggle other more serious contraband into the country, including illegal drugs, fuel, and other high-value items through various parts of the Philippines.
Well, that's the analysis already. Now, the template of the cigarettes can be a template for the distribution of drugs and other smuggled goods like fuel and rice.
Based on the PNP investigation, the smuggled cigarettes are believed to originate from the southern part of the country, although authorities have not yet disclosed the specific location. For now, investigators say a single group appears to be behind a series of recent seizures of smuggled cigarettes in Luzon, while its possible connections to other parts of the country are still being verified.
Dito sa Luzon, lumalabas parang isang grupo yung nahuli namin.
So
yung Batangas, parang isa yung dito sa Malabon, isang grupo lang sila. And then in Pampanga.
On January 2nd, 2026, the PNP Highway Patrol Group intercepted trucks and container vans loaded with smuggled cigarettes in Sitio 5, Balete, Batangas City with an estimated value of 2.6 billion pesos. In a separate operation in Malabon City, 4 suspects were arrested and authorities seized an estimated 1.5 billion pesos worth of unregistered imported cigarettes. The PNP says investigations are ongoing and administrative and criminal cases may be filed against those found involved regardless of rank. For Ghana, my beloved country, the Philippines, reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montebon, SMNI News.
When we return, U.S. President Donald Trump is escalating his push for Greenland. Trump issued a blunt warning to European leaders today, sharpening his stance on acquiring the territory. U.S. Southern Command has seized another oil tanker in the Caribbean. This marks the 7th interception in recent weeks as Washington tightens its maritime quarantine against Venezuelan exports. And a dramatic verdict in Seoul. Ex-Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has been sentenced to 23 years in prison for plotting against the South Korean government. More news after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online. Hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse, magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
U.S. President Donald Trump has sharpened his confrontation with Europe after issuing a blunt warning when asked how far he would go to acquire Greenland. Jane Cognita has the news.
How far will Trump go to acquire Greenland? Trump was asked this question at a recent White House briefing. His response:
"You'll find out."
The comment came as the U.S. president marked the first anniversary of his second inauguration amid a widening transatlantic dispute over the Arctic territory. Trump has threatened additional tariffs on countries deploying troops to Greenland, escalating tensions with European allies. Earlier, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent urged calm, telling European governments not to react to the new tariffs. He also said he would advise everyone to sit back and take a deep breath. Asked if he believed there were any retaliatory measures against the U.S. that Americans should be worried about, Bessent replied with a no. Countries involved in joint military exercises near Greenland warned that Washington's stance risks damaging transatlantic relations, saying their deployments pose no threat. The exercises followed Trump's repeated claims that the U.S. must take control of Greenland for security reasons. Some analysts say the drills were meant to reassure the president, while others argue that they were designed to deter him. The dispute has also reignited debate over Denmark's historical treatment of Greenland, a former colony that remains in the autonomous part of the Danish kingdom. Meanwhile, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said that her country will not negotiate over its sovereignty. Frederiksen noted that Denmark has never sought any conflicts, but the country is now being threatened by its closest ally, both in terms of Danish territory and Greenlandic self-determination. As for the tariffs the U.S. has threatened to impose, Frederiksen said a trade war would cost jobs in both sides of the Atlantic, and as much as Denmark must warn against it, the country must also prepare for it. This has been Jane Cognita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Trump criticizes NATO allies and calls for U.S. ownership of Greenland, saying the Arctic territory is key to national and international security. Trump claimed the United States has borne the bulk of the alliance's costs while receiving little in return. He also argued that NATO was created to protect Europe. Here's the rest of what he said.
So what we have gotten out of NATO is nothing except to protect Europe from the Soviet Union and now Russia. I mean, we've helped them for so many years. We've never gotten anything, except we pay for NATO. And we paid for many years until I came along. We paid for, in my opinion, 100% of NATO because they weren't paying their bills.
Trump also revived his controversial push for U.S. ownership of Greenland. According to Trump, Greenland's strategic location makes it critical in the event of future global conflict, particularly with missile trajectories passing over the Arctic. He said U.S. ownership would allow Washington to construct what he described as a massive defensive Golden Dome system.
And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally it's not defensible that way, totally. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest Golden Dome ever built. We're building a Golden Dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Trump claims such a defense system would not only protect the United States but also Canada, which he accused of benefiting from U.S. security support without adequate appreciation. The remarks are expected to reignite debate among NATO allies and raise fresh diplomatic tensions with Denmark, which has repeatedly rejected any suggestion of selling Greenland. U.S. Southern Command has confirmed the seizure of yet another oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea, marking the 7th interception in recent weeks. The operation is part of an intensifying America's so-called maritime quarantine aimed at crushing illicit exports from Venezuela. This report. In the early hours of Tuesday, U.S. military forces intercepted and boarded the motor vessel Saguita as it transited the Caribbean Sea. Unclassified footage released by Southern Command shows the Liberian-flagged tanker surrounded by U.S. assets before troops moved in to take control of the vessel. The Saguita, managed by a Hong Kong-based firm, is identified as a part of a shadow fleet previously sanctioned for transporting oil from Russia and Iran. This latest apprehension marks the 7th tanker seized since President Trump established a strict maritime quarantine following the capture of Nicolas Maduro. The operation, conducted under Operation Southern Spear, involved a joint force of the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, and Department of Homeland Security. U.S. officials state that these seizures are intended to redirect Venezuela's oil wealth toward rebuilding the country's economy under the new interim administration. However, the campaign has drawn sharp criticism from Moscow, which recently lodged a formal protest over the detention of Russian sailors on similar vessels. Despite the diplomatic friction, Washington remains unwavering, with President Trump recently stating that the U.S. has already moved 50 million barrels of seized oil onto the open market.
U.S. oil production is up by 730,000 barrels a day, and last week we picked up 50 million barrels from Venezuela alone. Venezuela has been an amazing place for so many years, but then they went bad with their policies. 20 years ago it was a great country, and now it's got problems, but we're helping them, and those 50 million barrels we're going to be splitting up with them, and they'll be making more money. They've made it a long time. Venezuela is going to do fantastically well. We appreciate all of the cooperation we've been giving. We've been giving great cooperation. Once the attack ended, and they said, let's make a deal. More people should do that. But Venezuela is going to make more money in the next 6 months than they've made in the last 20 years. Every major oil company is coming in with us. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to see. The leadership of the country has been very good. They've been very, very smart.
As the Saguita is escorted to a secure port, U.S. forces continue to patrol the Caribbean, warning that any vessel operating in defiance of the quarantine will be intercepted. 3 days after the devastating train crash in Spain, the country has been hit by a second rail disaster after a commuter train derailed near Barcelona, killing one person and injuring dozens more. One person was killed and at least 37 others injured on Tuesday when a Spanish commuter train's truck slammed into debris from a wall that collapsed onto the tracks in Gelida, about 40 kilometers west of Barcelona. The aftermath was devastating. Twisted wheels and damaged carriage were seen as emergency crews worked along the railway line. The police and firefighters secured the area. Fire service officials confirmed the driver was killed, while 4 passengers remain in serious condition. Spain's rail infrastructure manager Adif said early assessment suggests the wall collapse may have been caused by heavy rainfall affecting the region in recent days. At Barcelona's Sants station, railway staff and passengers observed a moment of silence, while commuter services across Catalonia were suspended pending safety inspections. The latest crash comes as Spain observes a national mourning after a separate high-speed train collision in Ademuz, Andalusia, over the weekend left dozens dead. All services on Catalonia's Rodalies commuter network remain halted as investigations continue. In a dramatic verdict, South Korea's ex-Prime Minister Han Duck-soo was handed a 23-year prison sentence over allegations of plotting against South Korea's government. MJ Mondehar has the rest of the story.
Former South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has been sentenced to 23 years in prison on charges related to an alleged insurrection against President Yoon's administration. Han Duck-soo was appointed by Yoon Suk-yeol as Prime Minister in May 2022. The Seoul Central District Court handed down the ruling after prosecutors argued that Han played a central role in orchestrating efforts to undermine the government, a claim he and his legal team have denied. Judge Lee Jin-kwan ordered the immediate detention of Han. According to Lee, Han had a constitutional duty to prevent the insurrection. However, Han instead chose to join it. The former Prime Minister's conviction marks one of the high-profile political trials in recent South Korean history, intensifying tensions in the country's political landscape. Supporters of Han have denounced the verdict as politically motivated, while critics say it underscores South Korea's commitment to holding senior officials accountable for threats to democratic governance. Authorities say Han will be transferred to a detention facility to begin serving his sentence immediately, pending any appeals. The case has drawn significant attention both domestically and internationally, raising questions about political stability and the rule of law in South Korea. Meanwhile, Yoon Yuk-sul's verdict over his insurrection trial is scheduled for February 19, with prosecutors seeking death penalty. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondehar, SMNI News.
Italy's fashion world mourns the loss of Valentino Garavani, the man behind iconic red dresses and a global legacy in haute couture. Meanwhile, Jessie Nelson has stepped out in public for the first time with her twin daughters since revealing they were diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular disorder, SMA type 1. The showbiz updates from Blake Ann.
Rome is honoring the life and legacy of Italian fashion legend Valentino Garavani, who passed away this week at the age of 91. The city held a commemorative ceremony, drawing family, friends, and prominent figures from the world of fashion, art, and culture. Attendees paid their respects to the designer, who became synonymous with elegance, luxury, and Italian haute couture. Known simply as Valentino, Garavani founded his eponymous fashion house in the 1960s, dressing royalty, movie stars, and socialites. His signature red dresses and meticulous craftsmanship set global standards in fashion design, earning him a lasting place in the history of haute couture. Speakers at the ceremony highlighted not only his creative genius, but also his influence on generations of designers who followed in his footsteps. His contributions helped solidify Italy's reputation as a global fashion capital. Valentino Garavani's legacy will live on through his fashion house, who continues to produce collections under his name, inspiring elegance and innovation worldwide. Pop star Jessie Nelson has been seen in public for the first time with her twin daughters since revealing they were diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular disorder. The Little Mix singer, 34, shared earlier this month that her 8-month-old babies, Ocean and Story, have been diagnosed with SMA type 1 or spinal muscular atrophy. The genetic condition causes progressive muscle weakness and atrophy, affecting motor function. Nelson was spotted out with their daughters in a rare family outing, sparking an outpouring of support from fans and the public. Supporters have praised her openness about the diagnosis and her advocacy for awareness of rare conditions. The singer and mother has vowed to prioritize her children's health and share their journey in hopes of raising awareness for SMA and other rare neuromuscular disorders. And that's all for now. I'm Blake Ann, bringing you the latest showbiz.
In sports updates, Filipino tennis star Alexandra Ayala is heading home with optimism and gratitude after her Australian Open main draw debut, vowing to come back stronger. Meanwhile, volleyball star Ran Takahashi says experience has reshaped how he reads the game, marking a new chapter in his growth as a player and leader. Here's the latest updates.
Despite early exits in both singles and doubles, Alex Ayala described her Australian Open experience as a privilege and a valuable learning step in her young career. The 20-year-old teased her return to the Philippines with an Instagram post showing an in-flight screen reading "Next, Manila." Ranked at number 49 in the WTA at the start of the tournament, Ayala fell to American Alicia Parks in the singles first round and bowed out of doubles with Brazilian partner Ingrid Martins. Still, her campaign was highlighted by overwhelming fan support as Filipino supporters filled the stands and waved Philippine flags throughout the tournament, following her strong performances in Auckland and Melbourne lead-up events. Ayala said the outpouring of support deeply moved her, calling it a reminder that her journey is shared with her fans. As of the WTA Live rankings, Ayala has climbed to number 44 with 1,159 points and is set to banner the WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open from January 26 to 31. Meanwhile, now competing in the SV League with Suntory Sunbirds Osaka, Takahashi says the biggest change in his game is mental rather than technical, pointing to improved awareness and decision-making on court. He believes professionalism demands discipline, but says enjoyment and freedom within that structure are essential for creativity and strong performances, especially in high-pressure matches. When momentum turned against his team, Takahashi focuses on staying calm, using composure as a way to steady teammates and reset the flow of the game. Training alongside experienced veterans, including world-class opposite Dmitry Musersky, has raised his standards and sharpened his competitive mindset. Playing at home has also deepened his connection with fans, reinforcing a sense of responsibility to help elevate Japanese volleyball beyond individual results. Looking ahead, his goals are clear: to win the SV League title with Suntory Sunbirds and help Japan qualify for the Los Angeles Olympics with the medal firmly in sight.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. Discipline and sacrifice are the ingredients to success. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Carlo de la Peña. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News.